I think we left off was that. The puck went off the screen, but then it just kept bouncing, and every time it bounced, it added score. We can take care of that. Let's see, that would be the can script. Let me open that up. So what we have to do is test for being dead before we go ahead and keep adding more and more points over here. Mode is not equal to dead yet. So I'm going to crush it, and then I'm going to knock it off. And there, score just happens one time. We should do something that if our life goes down to 0, then it's game over. So I'll add another text object. Let's set this up here with overflows and centering. So I press this here to open up the presets for anchors. Then I hold the Alt key and press the center one. So make the font bigger, 48. Okay, and then I'll pick a color. And maybe now's a good time to show you how do we use different fonts. That's how do we get different fonts into our game. Let's go to internet, some free fonts here. And as you can see, I could pick a font that I want. I'm going to download it. I'm going to put it into assets folder, and then I'll go back to Unity, focus on it, and there it is. And let's go look in that folder with Show and Explorer. So this is the folder, this is the file. Extract it. I use 7-zip. Now there's a folder called Tingy. I don't need this anymore. Delete. That's a zip file. And in here should be the font. I think the one that we want is this one here. Okay, so I'm just going to drag that up to the root, and I'll get rid of these others. Bam. So now in our assets, we have a font. And as a matter of fact, I'll just call this folder fonts. So now if I go back to my text game over, when I try to choose a font, I'll have more choices. And there you go. I could see Tingy Demo is my text there. Wong, wong. There we go. It's just going to be really big. Game over. And while I'm at it, let me just change the text of these two things. I could select text life and text score. And to them, I will also use the Tingy font. So now that I added text game over, I'm going to have something that I could use to control to display it. I'm going to go to my globals file, just like before. Collapse the definitions, and I'll just add another text, private, static, text, text, game over. Then I'll just have a function to set the game over text. It's going to copy like these, public static, void, set game over, be on. First thing I have to do, I have to make sure I have it. So text game over equals null. Then I'm going to get a pointer to it. Text game over equals game object dot find game object with tag game over. I'll go back into Unity and make a tag for it. Get component text. And then if text game over is not null anymore, just do that. Be on. When the game starts, the game over thing should not be showing. At some point, we need something to control the whole game. So I'm going to add in a game controller. I'm going to add an empty object for it. And I'll just call this empty object game controller. This is just so I could put a script on it. I will add a game controller script, create C# script game controller. So private void start. And here I'm going to call something that's going to call over and over again, but not as frequently as an update function will call. Void game controller check. It's going to check to see if the lives have gone down below 0. This function is going to get called. I'm going to use an invoke repeating command. Invoke repeating, and the method I'm going to have it call is my game controller check. So the first time it calls game controller check, it's after 1 second, and then it will repeatedly call every second. And in here, what I'll do is I'll check the life. If globals.life is less than or equal to 0, you're dead. We'll show the game over screen. And this script, let's attach it to this empty game controller, drop it on there. Also then, when the game starts, I want to set it to false. All right, now I'm going to press play, and let's see what happens as I lose my lives here. So the game starts, and the game over screen is still showing. Let's see, we have an error message here. It says text game over is not defined. So I'm going to double click on that message, and right here, yeah, that's right. There are no game objects with the tag text game over because I said I had to do that step. So let me go and do that step now. in the canvas, here's text game over. I want to add a tag of text game over, paste, save, and now on the text game over, I want that to be the tag there. Now press play. There we go. It's gone. Now if I get hit once, what? I can't even see any numbers. Twice, 3 times, I don't know, but it did come up. But I have a problem. This font that I picked, I may have to pick another font. So let me go back to the fonts thing and pick a different font just to make sure I could see that it does show numbers. I'm going to put some numbers in here too. Let me just do like that. I think I'll just try this one here. Crumple the fonts folder, save. And here in the fonts folder will be this crumpled paper. Show it in Explorer. We have to unzip it. So crumpled paper, extract. All right. So now I'll go back to the canvas, and for text life and text score, let's pick this other font. There we go. Now we should be able to see the numbers. Now I'm going to press play again, and let's see what happens. So I get touched once, I get touched twice, I get touched 3 times, and it's game over. All right, cool. So we have that working. We have to have something to tell all the other scripts that, hey, the game's over, stop moving. So in the globals, I'm just going to put in pound, region, and inside of here, a new game mode, playing and game over, public static, enum, game mode, and we'll call it game mode. And another thing we'll do is the mode for the games. We'll set it equal to playing. And maybe I'll set that first in the player script. We'll have to check in the places where we actually could control the player, because if the game's over, we'll just say that you cannot control the player anymore. So this is the update function where we read for the controls here. So what we'll do is just before we even read for any controls, we'll check for the game mode. If globals.game mode equals game over, we will just return and not execute anything in this method. I'll go over what I just did here. In the globals, I added an enum to say the mode that the game is in, and the 2 modes I have right now are playing and game over. And then the game controller, here it checks, it initializes the game mode to playing, and this sets up to call the game controller check every second. And then here in the game controller check, it just sees if the life went down below 0. If the life went down below 0, then we actually set game over. That would mean that in this function, set game over, we should add something too, because we have to change the mode. So let's go to the definition, set game over. We'll say if be on equals false, then the globals dot game mode will equal game mode dot game over. Should I do this here? Because here what I'm just thinking that this does is it sets the game over text. So putting this code here, it may throw somebody for a loop. Why did they put the text in there? So this is part of like trying to figure out the best place to put your code. So the game over, the game controller check is a thing that determines when the game is over. This will set the text. And I think this is where I should put that command. Game mode equals game over. I think it should go here. All right. So I will stop moving, and everything else should stop moving too. What are the other things we have in the game? We have me, and we have these cans. We'll say that the can will stop moving also. So let's go to the can script right here, and we'll have to do a check in it to stop moving. Let me just collapse everything. Everything happens in the update. So just like I did in the player script, where I kind of did a check and skipped over everything, I'll add that here too. Copy. All right. So press play, and I get hit once, I get hit twice, and I can still move. I get hit, it's game over, and I can't move, and neither can the can. Oh, now this is great. The game is just stuck. We probably should have something to say, okay, I want to start playing the game again. So, like to reset the game, let's add a button, and now we'll learn a little bit about buttons. We will add a button that's going to show on the screen. This will be the button go to a menu screen. So button, menu. Now, how do you change the text for a button? Because here when I click on button, there's nowhere I could see where I could set the text. If I open up the button, inside the button, then there's a text object. So here I could say menu, and I could use the font. Let's turn off the overflows so the text could get as big or small as I want. And now you say, oh great, you made it that big. How is somebody going to click the screen behind it? Now let's go back to the button part. And here with the button part, I could make that button bigger or smaller with this width and height. Make sure I have the button selected, the parent of those two things, and then move this. When I press play, what happens? Well, first things first, we have to not show the menu button, but I'll just have to add another tag here, btn menu. Button menu. I'm gonna have to hide button menu until the game is over. First, let's go to globals, private static button, and this is button menu. And then we're just gonna have to add a function, set menu button. If button menu is null, so button menu equals game object. Find object with tag. If the button menu is not equal to null, then I could do stuff to the button, and I'll say button menu dot game object dot set active be on. This set active command, it's this little checkbox right here. So not active, active. Now let me go to the game controller. Let's add in globals, set menu button to false, and then here game controller check. Your life goes down below 0. We'll set game over to true, and we'll say globals set menu button to true 2 to show the button. And I'll press play. Let's see if the button shows. Oops, I got a score. It's okay. Oops, don't knock you off. I don't want to knock you off yet. 2, 1, and I'm dead. And there you go. And I could click it, but nothing happens. We're going to have it show a menu. So what I'm going to do here, this sample scene that we've been using from when we started making the game, I'm going to say that scene is a level 1 in the scene folders. And now I'm going to start off by making a new scene for the menu. Save as menu scene right here. Save. This is what I'm going to do is add some UI. I'm going to add text for the title. So I'll say text title. I'll go over here, pick a different font. I'll probably make it bold. I'll increase the size, turn off the overflows. I could say center. Ooh, what color should I make the text? Cat on a shelf. And what else we're going to need is a button to play the game. Let's add another control, UI. I'll move it down. Right, button, play. Give it a better font. Blue. Okay, so now we have this menu screen. Here we have menu, and sample scene's the same thing. So now, and delete that. Now what I have to do in order to move from one scene to another, I'm gonna have to go into the build settings. Here, scenes and build. I'm gonna have to actually add scenes to my build. So I'm going to select level 1 is going to be in the game and menu. I have to do this first so that Unity knows which scenes are actually going to be part of the game. And then I could close that. I'm going to do some code on the button. The way I add code to the button is I actually have to have somewhere that the button could call for this menu. So create another script, menu controller, put it on there, edit it, and we need the scene management. That's for the load scene button, play, click. And what I will do is we'll call scene manager.load scene level 1. That's the name of the scene, level 1. Then back in Unity instead. So here's the play button. We will have it use menu controller, and we'll have it use the menu controller function button play click. All right, press play. Let's see that. I'm going to press play. And there you go, and the game starts. We'll add in the next video is actually winning the game, knocking every can off the shelf. So far we have one can, but we'll do that in the next video.